lesson in the difference between horse carriage driving and Model T driving. This is the speed that you would be traveling if you were traveling in your horse carriage and you were going a distance of maybe 10 miles away. It would take you 3 to 4 hours to make that distance at that speed.
Yeah.
And when people started being able to own an automobile and found that they could go 10 miles in only 1 hour, they were amazed at the speed of this automobile at 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And there it is, right there. So that to this, 10 miles an hour. There used to be a stagecoach line that went from Detroit to Chicago on a regular basis, and that was an 8-day trip. With this automobile, you could at least cut that in half, and once they started paving the roads, you could do it in about a day.
So what was the top speed of this car?
Top speed was actually 40 miles an hour. There just weren't any roads good enough to do that.
Is this shifter out? I know you're putting it up there. Is this shifter anything close to what they use nowadays?
Nope, there's nothing like this on the road. This is the accelerator.
Oh.
So what you're not seeing is my foot on the pedal. That's what's actually shifting.
Yeah.
So the accelerator's here and the shifting is at the bottom, and it's sort of backward from a modern car.
Uh-huh.
All right. Not so many cars, not so many people, no horses. Show it to me here. What you've got is your accelerator here, and you've got your brake pedal where your normal accelerator would be.
Yeah.
The pedal in the middle is for reverse. Then you have 2 forward gears on your clutch pedal right here. I'm holding it halfway in because neutral is between the other 2 gears. Low is at the bottom of that spring, high is at the top. So you're going to start by pressing it all the way down, and then end by letting it all the way back up. So it went from low to high, and that's all it was, low to high. Low is for starting out and climbing a hill, and high is for everything else.
Did they have like lessons in the beginning, do you think?
The man who sold you the car would teach you to drive it.
Oh.
And that was your driver's ed.
And it was at a fast learning curve, do you think, or they had a lot of problems?
I mean, you know, if you really didn't get it, what you would sometimes do is have him come out to your house, and you'd give him dinner, and he would continue to teach you. But other than that, if he thought you got it, you learned it and you took it home.
But back then, there wasn't anything like driver's license.
Not at that point. If you were tall enough to reach the pedals, there wasn't an age limit on who could drive the car. So you might have a 10-year-old driving an automobile, and it was legal.
And do these cars now drive with unleaded or leaded?
Regular unleaded was the fuel that was available at the time period, so these cars run with what's available right now.
Yeah.
Lead is an additive.
Uh-huh.
So they didn't start putting it in regularly until the late 1920s. Model Ts were done at 1927. They stopped building them at that point.
And what was the gas mileage on this car?
It was rated to get 25 to the gallon. Now, unlike today, when you take your car out onto the freeway, you get better mileage than you do in town. This one, it was the other way around, because outside the city limits, all you had were terrible dirt roads to drive on. So in town, on the paved roads, you got better mileage than outside.
I see.
Yeah, if you're driving through 6 inches of mud, that's going to impact your gas mileage.
Do you drive these on Greenfield Village? Do you drive them in the rain or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now yesterday,
another story,
that terrible storm,
Yeah.
we weren't open at that point,
Okay.
except for the concert that got canceled.
Yeah.
So in those kind of conditions, no, we wouldn't be driving the car in a terrible storm like that. But we've had several all-day rains here lately, and in May, early June, the weather just didn't want to nicen up. And we rode these many, many, many days in the all-day rain.
So you have like bonnets or,
No, we drive
clear?
them just like this.
Yeah. Huh.
Because if you put the side curtains on, you lose visibility.
Oh,
because they had those tiny little wavy plastic windows.
Oh, okay.
And we can't afford to not see all these people.
And do you have a
wandering
windshield
around.
wiper there or no?
Nope.
No windshield
Well,
wiper?
on this one I do. It was an add-on.
Uh-huh.
But on most of the cars, no. It didn't come with the car when you bought it. This one, somebody added it on because this one was purchased from a collector, and so he added on the mirror, the windshield wiper, and the horn.
So how many miles is there? Is there a
Speedometer.
no speedometer? So you don't know how many miles?
So you don't know how many miles you've traveled. You don't know how fast you're going. Mr. Ford didn't figure that was necessary because there were certain things that you would do to this car every day or every other day, so you knew what maintenance it needed. Changing the oil, you would just say, okay, every 2 months I'll change my oil.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So you really didn't need to know a mileage. And as for speed, you could only go as fast as the road would let you go anyway, which was usually 10 or 15 miles an hour. So to make the car less expensive, he left those things off. Windshield wipers, mirrors, speedometers, those things he considered to not be terribly needy for the car. So he left them off to make it less expensive. He figured if you wanted it, you could buy it later.
What did this car cost?
$300.
And how are they you're maintained by the owner, right?
Right, usually. Now, if you weren't a very good mechanic, they did have dealerships where you bought the car that would work on it for you. There was always a mechanic on duty.
And did they work pretty good, the cars?
Oh, yeah. we're driving this car 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So, I'm driving this car more hours a day than I would drive my modern car, and it probably has just as few repairs.
Huh.
The main thing that goes wrong with these is flat tires. Even now on a good road, you're still wearing the tires.
Yeah.
So flat tires are common, and dead batteries because basically we're idling through the village. So the thing is with this car, they never had a battery to begin with because you always hand cranked it.
Oh, I see.
But we have added an electric starter because that's dangerous and it isn't convenient for the guys who have to work on them. So all of our cars do have an electric start, so you have to have a battery system at that point. And because we're idling, the battery sometimes goes dead because it doesn't really charge.
So this car did not have a
It would
crank.
not have had it has a crank.
But it had a crank is what I meant. That's how they started.
This one always has a crank because even if you add the electric starter, which was available after 1919, and a lot of people retrofitted older cars.
Okay.
So to have an electric starter on this car is not necessarily period incorrect. Because people would have outfitted an older car with an electric starter at some point because they were tired of cranking it.
Well, thank